One selfish question I want to ask is like,
Yeah.
how do you think about scaling SEO quickly? Because we have definitely, we see it working, but it does take some time, I think. And so are there any tricks of the trade you can scale it fast?
I think just to simplify SEO, there's really like on there's what happens on the site and there's what happens off the site. And so off the site, it's really just link building, which is like old school SEO 101. And it's kind of painful, but that's part of the task at hand. And then on site. And so we spend a lot of time, which we can chat about after the call or this call for sure, is like the pre-writing. And so we probably spend just as much time doing the research in advance of what we're going to write than what we actually write, because there are ways you can look at signals that different solutions have out there. And so we essentially just have like a playbook of analyze, like what should we even write about? So let's just say the query is e-commerce fulfillment. Well, what are the complementary topics that we also need to discuss to put ourselves in the position to actually rank? So like what is actually valuable? Because we definitely need to write that so people actually click on it and stay on it and share it. But also there are solutions out there where Google will essentially tell you like the signals of the topics that you should also include in it.
Yeah. I don't know if you've ever used that tool ClearScope, but I think that,
ClearScope for sure.
Right. That is one of those tools that really helps, I think, help you understand like, all right, those keyword clusters. So if I'm writing about credit cards, I should include the word Visa and MasterCard in there probably too, because those are clusters. All right. Cool.
Exactly. Yeah. So actually, so Patrick, who I mentioned earlier, who I did the tours with, there's so many like businesses that never got off the ground or we didn't put far enough. We actually had a company, we were trying something we called it semantic intent. And that is exactly what ClearScope did. And so we just never productized it. It was so stupid of us, but whatever. Those closed doors opened up others. But and I'm glad to see, ClearScope and a couple of others, they've done a great job with these solutions.
Yeah, no, it's really interesting how, I don't know, how all these marketing industries sort of evolve over time and mature and people start figuring out I don't know, that's what makes marketing kind of a fun game, is just a constantly evolving landscape.
Yeah. When I think partner marketing helps too is by, because link building, for example, is like very few people enjoy it and it's kind of a pain, and it's not like it used to be, call it 10 years ago. And so that's where I think partner marketing can help too, because oftentimes you just need to build, the domain authority by leveraging some of your partners. And so when you start doing these things, let's say with the Shopify's and Klaviyo's and BigCommerces of the world that are just extremely strong domains, and they're going to be referencing you anyways for the webinar that you're doing or the content that you guys collaborated on together. And so those can just more organically just increase your ability to rank as well.
So when you're building these partner programs, you talked about like, how do you think about going to these partners, catching their attention, and like, what does it actually look like? Are you writing articles, as you just said? Are you doing webinars? Are you giving them money to sponsor a conference? Is it all of the above? How do you sort of think about like the co-marketing programs you're building with these different partners?
It's all of the above, but our focus at the beginning was a lot on webinars and digital events. Because those were very scalable. And the guy we had at the time that was overseeing that at ShipBob, who I'd worked with before, he was just very proficient at that. And again, it's very scalable. At the time, it was in high demand. I'd say it waned a bit post-COVID, but I think it's picked up again lately. And you just need to be very creative on like, at the end of the day, our partner, especially if we can run these programs, our partners will gladly participate with us. And if we can fill them with, our ideal customer and their ICP as well, they're going to always show up. And so our goal even today is like, when we host a webinar, we want it to be both quantity and quality better than anything else that they'd get anywhere else. And if they're going to host it, we want to be number one on their list of partners that drove attendees to theirs, because that way we know anytime we do something, the partners are going to want to join ours. And anytime our partners do something, they're going to come asking for us to join. And then obviously you need to make sure that there's overlap in, what the value that the products drive. And so, for example, if we're doing all of the fulfillment and supply chain within the e-commerce space, and then we have, let's say, a platform, there's just this natural crossover of the value that we drive. Or if they're a customer support tool, which is essentially focused on the post-purchase experience like we are, there's just a natural overlap with our products being very complementary of each other. And if we're going after the same customer, and again, the value I talked about earlier just naturally aligns rather well.
I'm curious what you recommend. How should startups sort of think about this? Because I think one of the problems with partner marketing is, as a startup, you don't have a big email list. You're still figuring things out. And so, but you want to go get that big brand's, audience and kind of get their attention. So how do you go about approaching a bigger brand and sort of convincing them to partner up with you? Is it just like, hey, we're going to do all the work, slot in here, and we'll help drive a little bit of leads? Or how do you sort of think about working with those bigger partners?
You have to think about, based off of your team, where can you provide the most outsized value? And so you always need to start with that. It's like this very unselfish view of like, well, how can we be the ones? How can they at the end of the day just be like, okay, well, they overperformed. And so maybe you have an amazing founder that knows the space extremely well and can come on and maybe people know him or her, maybe they don't, but they can come in and just add a ton of value by joining and sharing their insights or sharing the data from the company or sharing customer stories, whatever it may be. And so they're just an awesome person to speak. And another good thing could be, well, maybe the marketing manager, whoever it is good at hosting these, because they're not easy. I mean, there's a proven playbook for this, but like it requires time. It requires the know-how of like how to tie everything together, from your marketing automation platform to your podcast platform or your webinar platform, and getting all the partners involved as you're herding cats. And so maybe it's that. Maybe you are the destination where people can have these and you can grow them over time. And again, you just got to start somewhere. So like during COVID, we launched this thing called Operator Series, where we'd just interview customers, and it started off, I'd say, rather small, 10, 20 people would come. And at the end, we had several hundred people that would be joining for these things. And so don't expect your first one or your first few. I'm sure you felt this way with a podcast. Like, it's not like you're going to be, number one trending webinar on day one, but you've got to start somewhere.
Yeah, we did this webinar play all the time at Lattice, and it was, like in the early days, it was hilarious. We had 10 people sitting on there, and I'm sitting in our founder's apartment trying to get it going and build anything, any audience around it. And then you slowly, Bamboo HR was like a big partner, and we would just like beg them to do anything, give them money. We'll do all of the work. We'll drive all of the leads. Just send one email to your list, please. But then over time, it just compounded. And eventually, we ran a virtual event with like 20,000 people. So it like got there over time, but it took 5-6 years to kind of build up that email list. Yeah.
And I bet that helped you guys so much also from a brand perspective, because Lattice is, especially in like the B2B SaaS space, Lattice is so well known. And I'm sure it's from, doing things like that.
Totally. And I think my best partner marketing trick is, I always find it funny that like for SaaS companies who have conferences, they like ask money for partners, and it's like, no, you don't need the 20K sponsorship package. Just get them to drive leads. And so we would do like lead driving packages. And that's how we got like 20,000 people there. It was like, hey, Bamboo, don't give us 20K, just drive 5,000 people to this event, and then you can be here for free. And so that play, I think, worked really well. Underrated play, I think.
Yeah. And that's a lot of people. Yeah. Congrats.
It was during COVID, so I think everyone was just bored and needed something to do.